I think before using Chattermill, it was a really complex, time-consuming effort. We are currently like 500,000 customers. The amount of feedback that we can get on a weekly basis, it can be a few thousand, like in minimum. What is great with Chattermill is that you have this mix of quantitative element within a few clicks, but also if you want to deep dive on the qualitative side, you can as well take that approach. When I was most happy when I saw someone not being a product manager starting to build a dashboard. I think this is where you start to say, okay, we start to win around that because people are starting to get the value and take advantage of the tool for their own team.
Vahritch, so first of all, thank you so much for joining me and our community today. I was really looking forward to our chat because you're actually one of the first product managers that I'll be speaking to in that series, Confessions of a Product Manager. So thanks so much for joining today. You've spent almost a decade working in different industries and businesses in product and tech, so across B2C, B2B, and SaaS in general. You first got started in social media, but for the past 6 years or so, you've been focused on fintech specifically. And now you work at Qonto, where you're a staff product manager and where you've led some really impactful projects. I hope you're going to tell us a little bit more about today. And at the end of the day, I know you really care about creating products that make life really easier and simpler for your customers at Qonto and deliver real practical value and impact for the entire business. And this is exactly what I really wanted us to chat today.
Amazing. Thanks for having me, Natalia. And let's look forward of what I can share to you, but also to the community.
Our pleasure. Really. Thanks for joining. So let's get started, maybe. Let's start from the basics. If you could tell us a little bit more about your role, about Qonto, and in general about your team, how it's structured, and what are your key objectives at the moment?
I can pinpoint of what is Qonto. So basically, Qonto is a B2B finance management tool currently accessible in France, Spain, Italy, Germany, Portugal, Belgium, Austria, and the Netherlands. It's basically available on web and mobile, allowing a professional, so a B2B user, to be able to manage their company. I'm at Qonto for 4 years now, nearly 4 years as a staff product manager, and I led several projects. The latest one was the launch of our first in-house financing capability. Now I'm working on a much more like future-oriented initiatives around, again, business, banking area in order to solve the pain points that our current customers are having in their day-to-day, and how can we make their life easier and smoother so that they can really focus on creating value for their own customers, for their business, instead of trying to find out how to manage papers or initiate transfer to the right supplier at the right time. So these are the focus a bit that we really ensuring to deliver a great product at ease. And that's our core mission, I would say.
Amazing. How is your product team structured at the moment?
So in terms of product manager, we are nearly like 70-ish currently, which is a lot. And we are structured in different, let's say, CFTs that we call cross-functional teams. And depending on the initiatives, the CFT can be temporary. It means a few months, or it can be more historical and permanent, such as key elements like a card CFT, an onboarding CFT. And basically it's like a PM, product design, UX writer, and then iOS, Android, web, and backend engineers, and then supported by lead engineers, that helping us to align on the vision and make sure that we are delivering the right product at the right cost with the right quality.
So a lot of product managers, a lot of different projects. How would you say, and that's probably a difficult question to answer in a few minutes, but how would you say, what's the role in general of customer feedback in your product strategy?
I guess it's all about the customer, right? So we want to make sure that we align with what they're struggling with, and our role is to make their life easy by finding the right way to fix a problem. Basically, yes, from a user perspective, the user preferences are extremely important for us to make sure that we are not deviating from what are the core expectations from the customer or their struggles, so that the solution that we're designing helps to solve their specific problem on that identified area. What is really important is, and I believe we're going to talk about it, Chattermill helps that, is to get the real verbatims, the real keywords, to also get the emotional aspect of how the user feels when they're reaching out to us so that we have this feeling of the struggle that they're going through.
Before we actually go to Chatamil, I wanted to really understand and maybe share it with our community. It's quite a big company. Do you mind sharing more or less how many users, active users you have at the moment, or what's the average volume of feedback you're getting?
Yeah, so we are currently like 500,000 customers. So that's quite a lot, I would say. And in terms of the amount of feedback that we can get on a weekly basis, it can be a few thousand, like in minimum. So that's a lot of, I would say, good insight as well for us. But of course, our objective is to have no support. So the best support is no support, of course, as a product. So we also make sure to reduce that number of touch points.
So to reduce the number of customer support tickets.
Yes.
Can you describe a little bit to us, what was the process of feedback analysis for you before you started using Chatamil? I really want to understand, how did you do that, and how did you deal with that huge amount of feedback before you started using Chatamil?
Yeah, I think before using Chatamil, it was a really complex, time-consuming effort. So in my previous company, I was sitting next to the customer success team. So a few times a week, I was basically just sitting next to them, shadowing their call, or even me taking some calls. But it was, as I said, time-consuming. There were some negative and positive elements, of course, but I didn't get the sense of the quantitative element. It was like extremely qualitative, and it can take some biased decision based on that. So I was missing that much more quantitative element that was taking a lot of time. Here, what is great with Chatamil is that you have this mix of quantitative element within a few clicks, but also if you want to deep dive on the qualitative side, you can as well take that approach.
Can you tell me, from your perspective as a product manager, why that quantitative aspect is so important to you?
It's really important for two things. If I take on the life cycle of a feature, first thing is to identify what potentially to build next. So if I see a lot of touch points regarding a specific theme, either something that does not exist. So for example, financing, that was a huge need from our customers, where we had on a weekly basis, like maybe 100 touch points across all our, let's say, countries. So it indicates a clear need or a clear pain point that allow us to prioritize or take the right strategy to solve that point. And on the other side, it's much more as well like post-release to identify what's the behavior or the waves of the touch points are happening. Is it like increasing? So if it increases, it maybe means that there is a bug, or the feature itself is not self-explanatory, something wrong is going on. Or if it decreases for us, it means that we solved an issue. So it's, let's say, it's a positive point. So it really helps top funnel, if I may say, but also at the bottom funnel.
Mm-hmm. So that quantitative approach is really important, especially when you want to prioritize.
Exactly.
What to build next, because it shows you how many people actually talk about that specific problem or challenge.
Exactly. So what is great as well with Chatamil is that you can go pretty deep in the, let's say, in the areas of the frustrations that customers are having. So you can really pinpoint and trying to really understand what's going on. So the qualitative elements, so basically what I mean by qualitative for folks that don't know, is that you can directly see in Chatamil the discussion that our customer had with our agent. So basically, if it's a chat, so on our side, we're using Zendesk, so you can see the Zendesk chat if you want, but also you have a layer of the summarized element with the pain points, the emotion, the sentiment. Is it positive, negative? Is this a recurrent issue? But then, as I said, you can go and deep dive and see exactly the discussion that happened. The words that the customer are using it are pretty as well important for us to understand, but also how did he reply to. It helps us to identify if there was a missing area in the way that we positioned the offer, or an element that they saw that was copy-based that was potentially leading to a misinterpretation. This is I would say, the value of going into the qualitative element by reading and going through the discussion. Then step to build. And I think it's a common thing is that as a PM, we always say that we have a gut feeling that helps us take the right decision. It's, I would say, the sum of all these years of reading through, discussing, that are piling up, of shaping a bit your mind and mindset about what's going on within some customer life, and helps you to prioritize, as you said, the right fix or the right initiatives, or take the right approach to solve potentially something that is broken or something that can be improved.
So I get it. I guess it depends how granular you want to go, right? How deep you want to go, because you can start from that quantitative feedback just to understand, okay, what are the top 5, 10 your customer issues? And then you can dive deeper and go into specific verbatims of customers to really dive into the details and nuances and understand what's going on under the surface, right?
But also maybe to give you an example and to come back to what you asked earlier is a few years ago, I also introduced at Qonto the instant SEPA. So back in the days, we only had the regular SEPA. For folks who are not familiar, it's basically when you initiate a transfer within the European schema, it could take 4 to 5 days for your beneficiary to receive that amount. And basically instant SEPA, as it now says, it's like instantly. And this was a key pain point that we saw, for example, in the NPS. So you also asked me earlier, what is the key element that we measure at Qonto? NPS and customer satisfaction are a key pillar for us to help us see are we on the right track. And we're always pretty ambitious to increase that NPS, which is extremely important in financial area. We saw that the lack of instant SEPA had negative NPS impact. Really, we saw verbatim of saying, hey, it's a shame you don't have instant SEPA. So people were basically having a negative NPS. And a few days, literally days after that we shipped instant SEPA, we saw the completely opposite impact where people were extremely happy, and we also saw it directly on the NPS. So as well, so it was coming from a gut feeling, not only a gut feeling, but real facts that this was missing because it was coming a commodity in the feature set of our competitors, but also in the market. So we decided to prioritize, and we directly see the impact thanks to Chattermill and validate the assumption that we had as well.
This is great example, such a great story. Like one powerful figure can change so much, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Amazing. I know you mentioned, actually, I really want to understand and the experience you've had with Chattermill so far. But what were your first impressions of the platform?
I was extremely happy. Coming from not having that kind of tool to having everything, not only everything, but everything with AI layer on top that is helping you to summarize you and also getting deeper. And something that is pretty specific to Chattermill is all the elements around like the sentiment score that helps you to visually see what are the points that are positive. So we have a concept as well at Qonto, which is the green bean and the red bean. So we always focus on the red bean, which are, as its name says, a bit more like the friction, people that are not happy, etc. But we also make sure, as I just gave the example on the NPS and instant SEPA, to value the green bean. So to make sure to also identify what makes people happy, because this is as well a key element for us to rely on to validate that we are building the right product and we have clear conviction on what makes our product people happy. And these are the strong elements that we need to balance and to also highlight. But yeah, indeed, so to come back to your question, it was really day and night for me. Within a few clicks, I could build a dashboard on a specific team that I'm working on with autonomy. So I don't need someone else, meaning an engineer or data engineer, to help me set up something. Everything was and still is ready, and anyone can independently use it. And that's, I would say, the key element and value of Chattermill compared to previously. It was much more like extremely manual process that could take a few hours or days a week to get a feeling of the quantitative element. Here I have it on the spot with one click if I want.
This is a very important aspect that you just mentioned. I feel like we're not talking about it enough, which is many times in different companies, I think that access to data and to insights is really difficult because it was all often gated, right, by insights team, data analysts team, engineering teams, and just non-tech people like myself, for example, didn't really have access to that.
Yeah, exactly. And then, as I said, customer focus is a key pillar at Qonto, and we have the tools that allow anyone to have access to it as well. So it's part or product marketing managers can access that and start to build their own dashboards to feed their thought on that. So that's a key element that I personally really appreciate. It's really important to be able to onboard the stakeholder so that then afterwards they can take part of the play and feel accountable for it. And maybe there's something that I did not see that potentially my product designers is seeing. It helps create healthy discussions, and especially when the team or the company is growing. At the beginning at Qonto, we're like, when I arrived, so company has been created in 2017. When I arrived, we were like nearly 500. Now we're more than 1,600. It's a massive, let's say, boost or explosion, which is a healthy one, but it also creates some downside of misaligning teams, people. So again, I guess something that is really important is trusting the tool. Like trust what the tool is really important so that you can also then align people. And as soon as they see the value, then that you can align pretty easily with that.
I wanted to ask you now, how do you use Chattermill, the platform, on a day-to-day basis? How often do you refer to it? Are you trying to find those insights when you're planning new features or prioritizing some product improvements?
It depends on which phase I am. So early stage is really trying to understand what's going on. So if I take the example of the way that I proceeded back in the days with financing, so we knew that there was some elements related to financing. So the easy way for me was to go on Chattermill and trying to get much more precise about like how many touch points in which countries, potentially what were the keywords that they were using to understand what's the purpose of their financing. So the first phase is to understand that. And basically what I do right away is to create a dashboard, allowing me to scale that approach, as I said, and then sharing with the team and board the team with, hey, we want to work with financing. These are basically what's going on in the realm of financing within Qonto. So touch points, weekly touch points, like what's the sentiment over the discussion of financing, but what are the sub-themes that are coming up when customers are talking about financing? It's not the one element that we're looking for to take the decision. It's one key element. Of course, there are many other elements that we look at, but then afterwards, it's looking at on a weekly basis what's going on. And then it's much more like on the delivery phase. So if we do like an alpha, beta phase, or then to make it available for all our customer base, what we want to make sure is that there is hopefully positive reaction. And second, what is important is to, I think for product manager, that's something that I always say, your real work starts when you ship something. Before that, it's just like a playground. But the real work for you, especially when you launch a new product, the real work starts when you ship it, because this is where you start to get the real feedback and the real usage. Before that, it's all about, we talked about gut feeling, assumption, even if you know that you know which problem you want to crack. But did you find the real way to crack the problem at ease, with simplicity, at the right level? And this is where, after shipping the feature, it helps us to identify how to improve, and it helps then to plan accordingly the different iteration phases, either like small win or a bit like mid-level improvements that we have identified.
So it sounds like you're using Chattermill and customer feedback and the insights from customer feedback a lot in the discovery phase. Also, you're tracking that progress throughout the entire product development cycle, whether that's an alpha beta test or post-release, I imagine.
Exactly. So it's a mix of many things, but indeed, so after releasing it, we identify what's the impact. So in previous example, I took like the NPS example, but it can also be the sentiment distribution that Chattermill helps us to get. Is it positive, negative on a specific theme? If it's like all negative, then we know that we have something to work on. If it's all positive, I would say we did a good job. We can potentially move to something else, while in the meantime, not forget to monitor, but help us to, it's a compass as well. It's helping us to prioritize the right things.
Do you have any things within Chattermill that types of reports, types of dashboards that you really use the most?
Yeah, if I look at it, I would say the themes are pretty important and interesting for us. Within literally in 2 clicks, I can see what's going on in a domain that I'm not working on. For example, I can check what's going on the bookkeeping side or on onboarding if I'm really interested to understand what's going on. So team is really helpful. Or if I want to deep dive in a specific topic around my area and then improve and increase that knowledge. Of course, feedback. So we talked a lot about qualitative. Feedback is I would say, I do believe your historic feature where basically you can search by team, by data source, data type, that date range, a specific element. And then from this element, you can get the highlights, AI observation, and then you open the discussion, you have all information from a customer, what he or she replied. So it's really an amazing tool. And I would say the last thing, I think this is a key element. It's a visual element, which is nice, is the sentiment. so that you can see on a specific team pretty quickly, is it green, is it red, so that it also helps you to get a sense or a feeling about the score or what kind of emotion the discussion went through between our user and the agent. So I would say these are the three stuff that are good. And of course, maybe the last thing is the workflow on that. So to make sure that people are aligned within the Vahritch teams, as I said, we can push to a dedicated email or Slack some reports. So that's pretty important to provide the visibility in case the team does not have the time or the reflex to check on a weekly basis.
Would you say that Actionable has made that customer feedback a little bit more actionable for you and for your team?
Yes, I think that's one of the reasons that we picked and we were looking for that kind of tool was to really be in the loop and really understand what's the reality. Otherwise, we could have credentials to go and check within the tool of, in our case, Zendesk if we want, but it won't be the same experience and it won't solve the same needs that we have. The AI layer of Chattermill and the simplicity and the flexibility, but not only having one tool, but it's basically an aggregator of many tools that you can have, is what is helping us. So the flexibility of the tool, for me, it's a Lego block. So basically, Chattermill is allowing you to build your own Lego based on the tools that your company is having. And then it's up to, I would say, you and your creativity to make the most out of the Lego blocks.
So what would you say is the biggest benefit of having Chattermill?
Simplicity and time. Like really, I guess these are the two elements. So trusting the tool that you can trust that the elements that you're getting from it are pretty valuable and are legit to help you do your job as well.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. You mentioned a lot, I think, at the beginning of our conversation, and I think that's probably a common sentiment across different product teams. A lot of teams, when it comes to building new features and new product releases, we rely a lot on intuition and assumptions. So in what way would you say Chattermill is really helping you challenge those internal assumptions when you're planning for new feature or product development?
I would say it's all about the customer again. So you know that you're gonna have way more element in the discussion, let's say between you as a product manager, you have a strong conviction that is backed up with the data being like either like the user interviews that you did with the notes combined with the reports that you build thanks to Chattermill, coming to a product designer and say, hey, this is a key struggle for our customers. Let's try to crack that. In any case, you're going to have much more element to persuade rather than someone saying, no, I don't think so because I have a gut feeling. I think it's really, this is where the healthy discussions are coming, and the tool helps you to basically combine all these elements, as I said. So your gut feeling, the data, the user interviews, some usability tests that you can do, all this kind of stuff are combined to make sure that the discussion that you're having with the team, it's basically how you make sure as a product manager that you have all the trustful knowledge to take the best decision at the right cost with the constraint that each of you can have in the area that you're evolving. So I think it's all about that, and not only about gut feeling. It plays a role, but not always. And so you always need to back up with some data metrics to make sure that to persuade and onboard people in your journey.
So basically, you've got solid evidence backed with customer verbatims, right?
Yeah.
This is the problem. This is the next big thing that we should work on.
And you have the volumes. And as I said, it's all linked to the NPS and customer satisfaction. And this tool helps us first monitor that and take the right approach to solve and to fix that.
You mentioned there are also different teams that you're collaborating on a daily basis and also different teams that are using the platform within Qonto. Can you tell me a little bit, how does it help you improve that collaboration, but also improve in general, I guess, the process of sharing that knowledge across the company?
There is not one specific standard. It's really depending on each team, of course. But each product manager that onboards Qonto know which tools we have. We have a 2 weeks onboarding where it's all about introducing the company, introducing what's our product, how it works, what are the key features, what are your stakeholders, but also what is important is the tools that we use and how to use them. So for sure, we know, and we want to emphasize that product managers are aware that we have this tool and know how to use it. And then it depends, it's up to them to leverage the most out of it. But get back to the question, I think in any case, it's not only a tool for PMs, it's a tool of people that are curious about fixing problems and prioritizing the right stuff for the customers. So as soon as you start to look at the tool in that direction, it's basically a tool for everyone, data engineers, when if you want, or marketing or ourselves. But in our case, we really try to break the silos and have the tool available for everyone. And I think when I was most happy when I saw someone not being a product manager starting to build a dashboard. I think this is where you start to say, okay, we start to win over that because people are starting to get the value and take advantage of the tool for their own team.
So what would be your piece of advice for someone who is just getting started with Catamel?
Just try to get 30 minutes. If you want to start, really get 30 minutes in a week. Put on our calendar, like block, close, Slack, or whatsoever. Just play around the tool. Just be curious, deep dive, click on every button, and then start to embrace it within your team. So potentially, if you have a monthly or bi-weekly with the team, start to introduce the tool and showcase the report. Make sure to say that it's not a PM tool, it's available for everyone. So let's try to embrace that, but it all starts from you being curious to deep dive into it. And this is where it starts to become much more interesting for your day-to-day.
And with that positive note, I guess we got to the end of this conversation. So maybe to summarize, what would you say, what's that one thing you wish product managers really knew about using customer feedback effectively?
Okay, don't jump on a discussion with assumption. Go in the discussion with the willingness to learn. So just try to put everything that you think you know outside and go there with your fresh eye of just trying to be extremely curious and putting the user in the best disposition so that he or she is completely honest, so that you are in the best disposition to really learn something from it.
I love that. So this is all that I've prepared, Vahritch, for our interview. Now I've got 15 questions, really rapid fire questions. So it's all about the first thing that comes to your mind, okay?
All right, let's go.
What would you say is the most underrated feedback source?
Again, qualitative feedback.
One metric you're obsessed with?
The NPS.
Biggest product myth you wish would disappear?
That customers have the time to read and fully understand the product, take the time to check all the buttons. So most of the time it's not the case. They're maybe not even aware that you have shipped a new feature or an improvement. So that's something that to be closely aware of.
What's your go-to way to get buy-in from leadership?
I think, again, data is a clear element to make sure that you have did your job well, and then including like the research analysis, the competitor tear down, anything that can move the needle related to the OKR of your company and would bring value to the business and to the customer.
What's the best compliment a customer has given to your team?
Like I said before, I think it's when customers are even like praising the team or the work that you did, or sending you a dedicated email saying, thank you, it helped me to save some time or unblock my situation. That's pretty rewarding as a team.
That's that simple.
Exactly.
Favorite Catamel feature and why?
Okay, so I talked about alert and workflows. Why I think I gave the opinion, it's like try to embrace and to bring proactive visibility to people who are not inside the Catamel or are not used to Go. And the latest release on the teams, as I said, are pretty powerful.
Any trends in product and UX you're paying attention to in 2025?
If I'm not using the word AI, so I would say it's really how AI can first help us internally, and second, how it can also help our product, then our users along the line. So closely pay attention to how AI can help shape and improve at Qonto.
What's the most rewarding part of your job?
Again, linked to what I said, but it all starts with an idea or a blank page and coming to the end of something that is functional, delivering value for the user and make them save some time, and getting positive feedback from them is pretty rewarding.
The best piece of career advice you've ever received?
Back in the days, early on, never fall in love with the product, so the feature that you're designing, because it can change, it can work on another team. Better really fall in love with the problem that you're trying to solve here.
If your team had a tagline, what would it be?
At Qonto, it would be less waste, more value.
Really love that. And that's how we got to the end, Vahritch. It was amazing. Thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed our conversation. The biggest highlight that I'm taking with me today is that it's really amazing to hear that product managers, product teams find Catamil and user insight so valuable across almost every single step of the product development, from discovery through then analyzing feedback across beta tests and then after the release as well. So this is so great to hear that this has been the core part of your tech stack throughout the entire product development.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I hope it's going to raise some nice thought to the community. And thank you as well for helping us by building the right features so that it can also help us build the right thing.
Yes, absolutely. Obviously, a word to everyone who's watching us, feel free to reach out to Catamil, to myself, or to Vahritch directly if you've got any questions. And thank you for joining us. Take care, Vahritch. See you soon.
Thank you, Natalia. See you. Ciao.